Welcome back, South by East fans, to the intersection where we talk about the culture, scripture, and everything in between. And sometimes there's something that just grabs you out of the muck of life, in the thick of it, when it's all going down, and gives you a little ray of sunshine. And that's what this was here for me. John, what are we looking at?
We're looking at barbecue bologna.
Ooh. That sounds nasty.
Yeah. Oh, see that? That's what you got.
That sounds nasty.
And so here's what you think that, and this is why this comes in the picture.
I do think that.
Is because I'm a foodie, a barbecue connoisseur. When I travel, I like to go to the best barbecue place I can find in the place where I'm going. Okay. But you know, when you get into conversations, a lot of people like to talk about brisket, which I love brisket, or ribs, or different things of that nature. But sometimes and it's kind of embarrassing at times to admit, like, you know what, I actually like barbecued bologna. And when you say that, and a lot of times, for people who don't know really, they give that reaction.
Yeah.
Until they taste a barbecue bologna sandwich.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they're like, my bad, right? And that's the deal with this On Top of the Covers, T-Pain album that we're talking about. This concert has been going wild on YouTube.
Yep.
And Brell shot me a message saying, hey, have you watched this concert? And I said, no. And he said, okay, check this out. And then we were in a meeting. He said, man, have you checked that out? And I was like, I haven't checked it out. And then he was talking about it again at another time. And he said, have you checked that out? I said, I have not checked it out. And then I finally checked it out.
Yeah.
And I was mad at Brill because
what'd I do?
I said, why didn't you tell me that this album was this good? And
I did. I literally did.
But he didn't say for real, seriously for real. And so I didn't really know that the album was really that good because he didn't tell me that it was that good.
That's the culture. You got to speak the right language. You're right. You got me there. You got me there.
Yes.
It's important to be up on the culture, man. And it's like a lot of people sleep on the barbecue bologna that is On Top of the Covers and this live concert. So I was originally a T-Pain hater. He came out. I was like, he's ruining it for all the real singers, being in love with strippers, and I don't like it. And my brother actually gave me the Epiphany album. He's like, man, it's T-Pain's second album. You listen to it. Just left it in my house. I said, what am I supposed to do with this robot man? And I threw that music in, and the first track came on and was banging, and I started looking up the credits, and I was like, he was writing and producing, and he's playing, look, the chords, and I was blown away by the musicianship, and it changed things for me. And I became a T-Pain fan. Anything T-Pain did, I was like, I'm gonna check it out at least once. Sometimes the content is not what I want in my brain, but because he's crazy talented. And this concert was just a showcase of his versatility and musicianship and his ability to bring incredible musicians around him.
Barbecue bologna.
Because
I'm gonna tell you something. It's kind of short. In college, I used to jam the T-Pain.
Yeah, bro.
Man, look at her.
I'ma buy you it.
Come on now.
I'ma take it. Oh, bro, it's the jam. It's the jam. Bro, and like what kills me about this concert, so the concert starts out with like a whole little jam. We got the bass player just riffing, got a little loop going. They bring in the keys and they end up just doing this crazy riff. And you're just like, where is this going? I don't know, but I don't want it to stop.
Okay, you ready for me to get fired?
Yeah.
The way they entered on reminded me of what we did, I think, for one Christmas Eve or Easter service. The way they came in, the band came in.
Oh, yeah.
And I was watching it, I was like, did we do that? I didn't have any knowledge that this was.
Hey, listen. Your worship pastor is a world traveling musician.
I was like,
I'm pulling from everywhere.
I was like, fam. I was like, this looks. They don't know what we did here, and we did ours before them. But it sure looked like.
I think they kind of know. They might know. They might know. they might know. It looked like they knew.
But here's the other piece of this, man.
Yeah.
Here's the other piece of this. It's for what you said. Like for me, the auto-tune didn't bother me because I grew up jamming in a house that jammed old school and like Zapp and Roger and different things of that nature. And so that was always something that was like, it was in the culture. Like now Zapp and Roger was not Luther Vandross. And I wasn't going to a Zapp and Roger tape, cassette tape, looking for Luther Vandross. I wasn't looking for Al Green.
Right.
But that still doesn't mean there's not a lane for Zapp and Roger.
Right.
And so, but on this album, the thing that got me, and I feel like it was a statement. I haven't watched any videos around the mindset and the choosing, but for him, like very early on in this concert, to sing "Don't Stop Believing," I think was a statement.
Okay.
For a lot of people, Freddie Mercury is one of the greatest vocal talents.
Yeah, he's crazy. He is crazy.
And for T-Pain to say, I'm gonna do covers, and one of my first covers on the album is gonna be a Freddie Mercury song, was a statement. I felt like, I said, oh, he chose violence.
Oh, for sure.
He chose violence. And then didn't he sing on the album? It says Britney Spears' sister. The one that got caught lip singing, singing on the.
I remember that, but
didn't he sing on the actual concert? He sung one of her songs like early on also, and like flipped this. He did and flipped that Joker.
Well, it was probably the clean one or whatever. Like, yeah,
he flipped it. It was her big hit. It was her big hit that she got called lip syncing.
Bro,
and he flipped that Joker and made it a groove.
Damn. So he had Lil Rod on there, who is in the industry one of the craziest like arrangers and keyboard players, and like he had like the arrangements. That's what was killing me. Cause like so he hits that Summertime in the concert. He hits Summertime, does a little welcome and talks, which I always love hearing. If you've never seen a T-Pain interview or heard T-Pain talk, it's always where for one, he drops a lot of gems. For two, he's really authentic. And for three, he's hilarious. Like he'll be talking about being depressed and losing all his money and struggling with alcoholism and how he came out of that, and you'll just be dying laughing. He's hilarious. So it's like, but after he does this little intro, he comes in and does like probably the greatest medley of covers I've ever seen. Like he hits That's Life and Do You Love Me, Hot Tequila, Don't Stop Believing, Into Shout, into Never Too Much, and I was like, oh, I was just done. I just stopped, and I was like, I need to send this to everybody I know right now. Like, this is the greatest.
And then I think it's like right after that riff, he hits the song that I'm talking about, and I was like, this.
He goes American Woman after that.
Okay, and then what about?
I Don't Wanna Be.
Yeah. I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately.
I didn't know that was Britney Spears' sister.
No, that's somebody else. But then there was another one in there that I thought.
This is how we do it. Then there's Clink.
Okay. But I no, it wasn't Britney Spears. It was that's Gavin DeGraw. Gavin DeGraw is, I don't want. Okay. Yeah. But they were in that same time period. But I was like, he flipped to Gavin DeGraw.
Yeah, that was hot too.
Yeah, the
way he did, and that was the thing, man, is whenever I see T-Pain, and this is what I love about him as an artist and as a musician, he is always authentically him. And we see so many people trying to manufacture greatness or trying to manufacture or come in and be the new somebody else. Yeah. And he even talks about it on here. He's like, I never thought I would be here. He's like, I thought I'd be a rapper. That's the only type of people that make it out of where I'm from. Yeah. And I thought that's just what I would do. And here I am. And he talks about being inspired by inspiring his dad and his dad seeing what he did. And his musicianship and his creativity is so much on display. But the thing is, I don't think T-Pain has that great of a voice. I think he's a great singer. Mm. How he uses what he has is so incredible. But if you don't understand, like if I was to just hear T-Pain singing a random cover somewhere, I'd be like, okay, that's a cool karaoke singer. But to see him pull together all of these arrangements and all these things, and the performance that he brings is unbelievable. Now he's a good singer. Don't go off saying I think he's a bad singer. I don't.
Yeah.
But there's something else about him. There's a charisma, and it's like you have to have a certain eye, certain ear to tap that, to realize how great that is.
There's shooters and there's scorers.
Yeah. Explain that.
So Steve Kerr is a shooter, right? Steve Kerr, you say Steve Kerr, you're gonna run down the court, you're gonna plant your feet right there. I'm gonna do all this over here. I'm gonna wave my hands, and then I'm gonna throw you the ball, and all you're gonna do is shoot. I don't want you dribbling. I don't want you pump faking.
He can't dribble though.
I want you shoot the ball.
But yeah, that's
now.
it.
But Steve Kerr played with a scorer by the name of Michael Jordan. Now, Michael Jordan was a scorer. He wasn't as accurate of a shooter as Steve Kerr, but Michael Jordan could shoot. But Michael Jordan, though, if I had to choose who I was going to pay my money to go see play, I'm going to go see Michael Jordan play. I'm not coming to see Steve Kerr play. Why? Because
Michael Jordan's going to put points on the board.
And not just that, the way he's going to put points on the board, it's going to leave you like, it's going to at least be one play that you look at and be like, woo, that was the money shot, right?
Yeah.
And T-Pain does that, man. Like the different elements he pulls in. Like, if I put, I know you, well, no, it's because he's a showman too. You really like Chris Brown. Chris Brown is a showman too. He can sing, but he's also just
he's another level.
He's a scorer. He's a scorer.
Yeah,
and
that's a score right there.
But I'm just trying to think of somebody who, like, for me, all time shooter is Luther.
Yeah,
you go to a Luther. You go to a Luther Vandross concert. You look back in the day. Luther had a mic and a spotlight. And you never gonna feel like you wasted money.
No,
you never gonna feel like that's all he needed.
That's all he needs.
That's all he needed. Whitney Houston, she ain't out here. She ain't doing no salt and pepper dance.
No.
She ain't doing no pushing.
That ain't Beyonce. Ain't no crazy.
She ain't doing all that. She need a mic, a spotlight, and let me go. Anita Baker, right? But there was a lane, right, for people like that, and so that's why I look at it with T-Pain, but you enjoy those elements, right? I enjoy seeing Klay Thompson in his heyday just shoot, but I also enjoy seeing Steph Curry everywhere, going crazy, throwing stuff out of, and that's the deal with this, and so I think there's a spot for both, and man, he hits it with, like you said, the musical arrangements. All those pieces, how they factored in, was just it was good,
man. And and it's he says it in there. He's like, man, all I've ever really wanted to do is connect with people, and I can do that. And we had a conversation earlier, and you were talking about right sizing the venue, and I think he was saying that too. And he was talking. He was like, man, I feel the wealthiest I've ever been. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but T-Pain at one point in time was generating more revenue than almost any other artist in the music industry. Now, he wasn't necessarily bringing it home because the industry is shady like that. It needed to be taken over. But he was generating more revenue than anyone else.
And stuff.
He had he had a huge single run for like 5 years. He was crazy. He was the biggest artist. And he says, he's like, man, I feel more wealthy now because what I do now is I get to connect with people on a regular basis. And even outside of this, like T-Pain is on Twitch, which is like Netflix for gamers. It's streaming for gamers. And he makes the majority of his revenue just playing video games on stream, connecting with people. And when he starts his gaming stream, he's got like a new song like every month that he does, that he just makes. And it's just, he has learned how to score. He has learned how to score, how to take what he has and take it to the
And that's a lesson, man. I remember when I started in ministry. Well, I'll go back. Even when I was in college and before that, when I was in high school, and I knew I wanted to be a chemical engineer. My goal at that time was to be a CEO of a chemical company. And then I graduated college, became a chemical engineer, and they said, well, in order to get that CEO position, like, we can put you in that future leaders pipeline, but you have to take certain jobs. Well, the problem was I had this group of elementary, like fourth graders that I taught Sunday school to. And I did Wednesday night programming for all the youth in my church. And so taking that position would have put me on call all the time, where I wouldn't have been consistent with them. And I said, I can't take that position. They said, well, you can't become a plant director or go toward that CEO deal without this. And I said, well, that doesn't mean as much to me as this.
Right.
All right.
Right.
And then when I started in ministry, I saw the kind of progression of you was kind of start out being assistant pastor or on staff somewhere, and then you maybe get a really small church in the country or something like that you be pastor of, and then if you got good enough, then you look for the next bigger church, the next bigger church, the next bigger church, kind of deal. But that's never been my thing, man. And that's never been my thing. I've always really enjoyed and felt like, and you hear me say this all the time, like, the church where I'm at is the greatest church, like, of all time.
Yep,
Like, all time, right? All time.
You are a Jersey man.
Yeah,
like letters on your chest. That's you.
All time. Like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Right? And I always feel like, because it's like the right size.
Yeah.
And, man, when you dream with other people and it's like, oh, man, I'm rich. Like, this is rich. This is rich, man. Like, and the experience, and it's like being in that atmosphere when everything is connecting. And, like right before we shot this, we had several things that happened. But even like, here's the deal. I wrapped up those things, having to handle several things that didn't go right. And there were still things for me to celebrate. I still was able to come back to this space. I mean, we had some significant things go wrong right before the shooting of this. Yeah. I was still able to come back in here and laugh and joke because all that went right today.
Yeah. Man, I'm going to ask you a question, and this wasn't necessarily in the topic, but we've gone this direction. I wanted to ask you this question. So, to give you all a little backstory real quick, I love the work that I get to do here. The other day I was having a conversation with my wife, and I was like, hey, I've had some opportunities recently to maybe go out and advance my career in some ways, which I think is important because it helps build the platform that I'm setting up for people in our community. And so I'm like, I got to keep doing that, but I got to balance the two. And as I was in the car with my wife, we were driving down for Thanksgiving, and I was like, man, I started thinking about the song Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder. I first heard Sir Duke in Miss Zima's class in, I think, the third grade. And there's a song that I'm probably dropping next year that has a break in it that's inspired by Sir Duke. And I was like, man, that song I heard in the third grade, I couldn't have told you, but it had such a profound impact on me that I'm writing songs in ode to it almost 30 years later. And I'm like, I bet you Ms. Zima didn't know the impact she was having on me, introducing me to Sir Duke. And she's like one of my supporters now. But I'm like, I bet you she had no idea. And I told my wife, I was like, man, the work that I do out there is important. But all the time that I spend out there is time that I can't spend with a kid in a classroom right here. And that looks good. But I can tell you, the impact that I can have right here, being here every week, I was like, it's so much greater. And I never want to prioritize that over this. Yeah. The next day I got an opportunity to go somewhere, but it would have compromised some of what I was doing right here. And here comes the question. So I was kind of wrestling with it, like, should I be taking this opportunity? This could bring things back to the community. What should I be doing? And I eventually settled on, like, no, it's not the right time. This is where I got to go. And after I made the decision, I had this peace just come over me. It's like before I made the decision, I was wrestling and I was like, all right, I think this is the right. I've said what my values are. It doesn't align with my values. This is how I got to move. And after I made the decision, I just had this peace come over me, like, good job. Almost like I felt like I passed the test. You recently had to turn down, like a year ago or so, had to turn down an opportunity to possibly be a senator. Most likely would have had that, had some different advancements and things come up.
Yeah.
And you had to make that decision, similar decision, like, hey, that's going to interrupt what's happening here. Bigger, but that's going to interrupt what's happening here. And I remember you wrestled with that, and we had given you our blessing, and then you're like, I got to come back. Did you feel what did that feel like to you after making that decision?
Man, it was one of those deals where, one, the opportunity that was offered was not one that I had even, wasn't a life dream or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I did just have this piece of, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. I need to keep on with the journey kind of deal. I got some things I need to finish, because when some of those opportunities were offered, the first thing I started thinking about was, okay, what does this mean for the work I thought I was supposed to be a part of finishing?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that's the deal. I got certain things I'm supposed to do. The thing I've been wrestling with lately, though, man, I was driving for Thanksgiving, driving out of town with my family, and I was like, man, Scent and Hi-Crest are getting just enough recognition where I feel like I should quit.
Yeah, you're going to have to expound on that. People want to know. The people want to know.
Man, I've spent so much of my life being the underdog. And there's a piece of me that finds comfort in being the under-resourced, the overlooked, the deal, right? And we got some things coming up that changes that. And
it's a new space.
How
do I navigate that?
And here's what scares me, and is we're getting just enough influence where we could be a church that really hurt people. We're getting just enough influence where we can be that church or whatever that really causes some people to not just like disagreement, walk away, but like, man, and I've just seen like when leaders get to a certain level where it seems like there's always a moral failure or something that happens.
Yeah.
And that scares me.
Yeah.
And so I have found comfort, like, man, I don't have enough stroke to do any of the bad stuff that they really doing, because I don't have access to enough stuff. I don't have access to that. And I feel like access, we've talked about this before, how what you have
access to excess.
The excess, yes.
Access to excess.
Man,
yes.
it does something. And so and it was like this kind of like I was just spending time, my wife was sleeping, my kids were riding with their grandparents. I was just like, man, God, can I trust you if you take me into this place to protect me from me?
Yeah.
And like
can I trust you in the promised land?
Can I trust you in this place? And I was like, and really I was like, I was so scared. Like seriously, I was like, how can I quit? Like how can I tell everybody that I quit? Because I'm so afraid of what's happening right now. And how it's going to ruin me, and it's going to ruin everyone around me, and it's going to hurt somebody. And so how can I tell everybody I quit and I walk away before it happens?
What made you stay?
I had to question whether it's been me keeping me or whether it's been God keeping me. And I realized that it's never been me keeping me. It's always been God keeping me. Mm-hmm. And to walk away when he hadn't called me away would turn it into me trying to keep me.
Yeah. Man, man, that's so profound. It reminds me of, I learned this stat actually from you a long time ago, where you had talked about one of the hardest things for people moving out of poverty is emotional resiliency, because you're stepping out of what you've always known into something new. And it seems like, well, I have less now, I have more. That's that should just be good. Like, why would that not be good? But it's like the whole way you have to look at your life changes. The access to things that you have changes. And sometimes it can feel like it's changing who you are. And when I first I did a TEDx event, and then people started having me keynote speak and such, and I got paid $1,000 to speak for the Chamber of Commerce. And it was the first time I'd ever had $1,000. The first time I'd ever had more than like $100 in my bank account. And I was like, $1,000. And then somebody else asked me to come speak at another event, and it was an event where they were honoring the people that usually aren't honored. And they were honoring a man who was a janitor. And I stood in there and almost had a panic attack. I was sitting there with like the chief and Melissa Bruner and all these people, and I was like, I dang near had a panic attack because I was like, I felt like a fraud. I was like, I was always poor. People always giving me rides. People always taking me out to eat. I was always talented and poor. I was the underdog, and I was doing amazing things with nothing. And now all of a sudden I had money because I thought having $1,000 was having money. I spent all of that auditioning for Berkeley. But but like I thought this was new. I now have money, and I thought that it would change who I was. And I had this crisis of identity. And I had to go through a period of mourning because I realized how attached I had become to losing.
Bro, it's easier to have enemies than supporters.
100%. That's why everybody's always shout out your haters, and everybody you're like, fam, you ain't got no hate. No one is hating on you. But it's much easier to be up against the wall.
And bro, it's easier to magnify the people who don't like you and who don't support you than it is to look around and be thankful for the people who do.
Yeah.
And and it is wrestling through that, man. It's getting over the scarcity, poverty mindset, even emotionally. To the place, and it's things that you think that you've worked through that you realize that, no, I hadn't worked through. I worked through it at that level, but then when I get to this other level,
right, it's a whole new.
It's a whole new ball game, and it's right there again, right?
And I think that's the battle. And like, I want y'all to go check out this concert. It's incredible. And in there, he talks as we kind of bring it to a close. One of the things he talks about is so T-Pain has struggled. I've watched a lot of his interviews. T-Pain has struggled with like alcoholism, and he's been manipulated and gaslit, and all sorts of things have happened during his career. And he was like, man, I almost didn't do this show. And he shares why. And it was I'll let y'all watch it, but it was some of his own personal things that almost jacked up what was there. Things that he had learned back there that almost jacked up what he was doing here. And that's before he talks about how this is the thing. And I just want to encourage y'all, man, like as you go to new levels, sometimes when you feel like you're getting better, you actually think you're getting worse. Because you start going like, I didn't have these problems back here. When I was still struggling, I didn't struggle with this. I didn't have these problems back there. But getting better comes with, like there's an old saying, new level, new devil.
Getting better sometimes looks like you having a thought and not sending an email.
Come on. Yeah. It does. And you got to recognize, man, whenever God gives you the opportunity to face the same situation twice and you don't respond the same way, you respond with some growth, you got to celebrate that and recognize that as what God has done. But if you want to see somebody actually scoring, who's come to that level, still with struggle, but has come to that level where they're scoring, check out this On Top of the Covers live show on YouTube. Then you can go check out the album as well. They got it in album form with just the covers there. Check that out. Let us know what you think. Man, let's have the conversation after the conversation in the comments. Continue to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next week
in the intersection.